Good day, everyone. This is Kathleen Boldt. You are listening to the Medium's Porch, and this is on Lilydale Radio, Blog Talk Radio. It is also appearing on Facebook. It will also show at other times for a replay, and we're excited to have you here. We will be interviewing a medium today and a minister, and her name is Charvonne Carlson. So welcome, Charvonne.
Thank you.
So we are going through a series of videos here where we are interviewing mediums to hear the specifics of their experience, their spiritual journeys, etc. And I want the audience to understand that Charvonne Carlson is the director of the Church of Peace, a spiritualist center for the NSAC, the National Spiritualist Association of Churches. And she reactivated the Church of Peace, a spiritualist center for the NSAC, as an online church based in West Allis, Wisconsin. So those of you interested in looking for a spiritualist church, you might want to check out Charvonne's church online. She is also the director of the Pratt Institute, the NSAC Spiritualist Education School. She came to spiritualism in 2015, and since then she has been received her credentials as a National Spiritualist Teacher, commissioned healer, and certified medium with the National Spiritualist Association of Churches. I seem to be tongue-tied today, Charvonne. Please forgive me.
It's a lot of words.
Charvonne, she serves and teaches at various spiritualist churches and camps throughout the US and Canada. I met Charvonne in Lilydale last year, and we had a glorious time. A whole group of us went out and did some off hours frolic, and that was a great time. And I am so happy to have you here with us today.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Wonderful.
And it was a great time. It was a great time.
Yes, it was. Yes. Do you want to tell everybody what it was we were doing?
Well, we went and played with llamas.
Yeah, there's this wonderful llama farm near Lilydale. And so a group of us were inspired by Celeste to go out and do that. And what a wonderful
trip. And then we had a wonderful dinner where we laughed. I mean, so much laughter. So much laughter, which was amazing. Amazing.
Yeah. Do you find this with spiritualism, but also with mediumship, particularly, that very often laughter comes through, that humor is a big part of our mediumship. Do you find that?
Yeah, humor helps relax everybody.
Right.
Those in spirit and those here. It kind of helps everybody kind of relax. It helps to lighten the room energy because it can be sometimes it can be really heavy.
Yeah.
And it actually, for me, makes it easier to bring the spirit closer and bring the messages through when the energies are all kind of in a joy state. In it, what I call the joy state. And laughter, I feel, is a key recipe, is a key ingredient for the joy state.
Right. It's joy that's coming through, right? It's the sense of humor. It's the humor that the spirit had before coming through and reminding us of the joy that brings us back to that place. Yeah, I love that. So what is it, Charvonne, that takes you back to mediumship again and again?
That is a really good question, given that I had no intentions of being a medium when I started.
Tell us about that.
Yeah. So back in 2015, when I found the Spiritualist Church, I was interested. I read the pamphlet and I attended a service. And the healing portion is really what drew me in. The mediumship, I didn't have any qualms with it. Like, you know, how some people were like, oh my God, it's all mediumship and it was weird. I didn't feel it was weird because I assumed everybody knew how to talk. I guess I assumed that everybody grew up knowing that your loved ones on the other side communicate with you in various different ways. So it wasn't really like in my family, very easily, my grandmother the next morning gets up and says, I dreamt about your grandfather and he said, cut that out, or something. Somebody would have a dream or somebody heard something and it sounded just like so-and-so, uncle whatever's voice or that sort of thing. So that was always integrated in my family. as that as just is, not as this weird anomaly. Or and if you walked up to someone and said, okay, I had a vision of da 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 da, people in my family, they just believed you. You know, you if you dreamt about XYZ, that meant that so and so was having a baby and so and so was pregnant or someone died or what have you. So this was, I guess, part of her family structure. So when the woman got up and told me, I have messages for you from your grandmother or your mother, I was like, okay, cool. Um, but it was really the healing. But spirit works in a funny way. So when I went to start the process after I completed the Morris Pratt courses and I started the process for creating credentials, I actually had more mediumship affidavits than I did healing affidavits. And I was like, I didn't even know I had one mediumship affidavit,
Oh, wow.
much less the amount I needed plus to start the credentialing process. And I was like, oh, okay. Because even me doing mediumship, we needed another person in for mediumship. I was an MPI student. I tested, passed this like quick test right before service, and then boom, I was thrown up on the platform and was doing mediumship ever since. And it never, but I didn't think about it. I was more focused on the healing and wanting to be a commissioned healer. So I ended up, and so when I went to turn in my healing affidavit, someone said, turn in your mediumship too. Turn it all in. I was like, okay, fine, whatever. And then here I am. I've been doing mediumship. I was doing mediumship then, but I've been working as a medium for ever since. So I just accepted that this is part of the healing process because healing is mediumship, and that this is just another way of healing um, through mediumship. That makes sense.
I'm curious, it makes perfect sense. I'm curious if you could describe for you what your personal experience was, either like whether it's visceral, mental, or something else, regarding the difference between when you're getting a healing response or offering healing through the traditional sense, using
Mhm.
or hands-on if you're doing that distance, and mediumship healing. Maybe you can qualify
Hmm.
that a little more.
Well, so being a healer, you get out of the way. But both mental mediumship and healing mediumship, you're getting out of the way either way. But with healing, I literally go sit on a hammock and I attune the spirit and set the intent that healing to come through my spirit to the spirit that I'm sending healing to their spirit, through their spirit, and then all the spirits are working together, providing the healing where it's needed. And I go sit on a hammock and just wait till they say, okay, we're good. You can come back now. Mental mediumship, I still have to get out of the way, but I'm a more active participant because I'm talking. So in that case, the getting out of the way portion for me during mental mediumship is just not trying to interpret, not trying to uh, clean it up, not trying to guess what they're trying to say, not trying to give my interpretation, just give what I get. So whatever the spirit person that's here for their loved one, I ask them to step in close, and I'm like, I'm just the channel. So you're going to use me to get through your message of love and healing for your loved one. And that's while also staying attentive and awake and not going into a trance when I'm doing it, though it has happened a couple times, only twice, but it has happened. And paying attention and being a part of the process without being the process. If that makes, I'm trying to my goal in mental mediumship is to be a channel I look at it as I'm bringing two people together who may not be in the same room, but now they are.
And you're the mediary in the middle.
I'm the intermediary in the middle, and my job is to let that person know first who they have. Do you recognize this person? And this is what they got to say.
Right. Now, how did you get yourself to a place, since even though you grew up with some of these inferences to spirit, how did you get yourself to a place where you trusted spirit exclusively? And I'm running on the assumption you do, because you're talking about the healing process, which
right.
is necessary. You the vehicle.
It took a minute of getting to that point. But it really was a lot of meditation and a lot of self-work. I don't know if people talk about that, but for me, it was really doing my own healing for myself. It was recognizing what's mine and what's spirit, and let me work on my own challenges or pet peeves that might pop up or what have you, and then knowing the difference between the two. And then the more I worked on myself and developed my own sense of self and got more at peace with being just me, the easier it got to allow spirit to, the easier it got for me to allow spirit to just work through me. I had to work through safety, that feeling of, am I safe, or am I making, don't get me wrong, I still to this day, after I give a message or I do a gallery, I still at the end go, did I make that all up?
Mm.
So there's never a point where I'm fully in the moment trusting, but outside of it, I still have my doubts. I still have did I get that right? Did I get it wrong? Oh my God, I hope it helped. But practice, developing of myself and really getting to know myself and being in attune, not only with spirit, but being attuned with myself, so that I could get out of my way and I could tell when it was my stuff that was coming up and it had nothing to do with spirit or the message, and then being able to say, okay, that's mine. Let me put that aside because it's not about me. Because the biggest thing is you got to get out of the way. You got to get yourself, your thoughts, and we're material beings, so it makes sense. We're doing something that isn't a physical touchy feeling. Everybody's feeling it and touching it too. It's not like going to the store and picking out a sweater and which sweater should I wear, and we're all looking at the same sweater and we're all touching and we're all seeing it. This is building that trust, that confidence, not only with myself, but with the sitter and with spirit, that we're going to connect two people who are physically not in the same space, but are. I'm grandma, I'm your grandmother. Your grandmother's coming through me to bring you your message. And I got to get you not to see me as me, but to see your grandmother.
So that feeling of doubt that you get after the experience. So you have this exclusive trust when you go into it. You're bringing the information through unbiased. You're bringing that through to your sitter, the recipient. That doubt you get after.
That's just the human me ego.
The human me ego. Yeah. Yeah. And so if you were in the reading and you were thinking or worrying about the things you do after, then we know you're getting in your own way, right?
Right.
Yeah. So the exercise is, I like how you said that, the practice. I tend to call mediumship at practice, because each time I go up there, or you too, right? We don't know what we're going to say.
No clue.
We, depending on the day we had as humans beforehand, right? Mm-hmm. We could get up there and we could be nervous beforehand. I'm usually nervous before everyone, but we could get up there and it could be so dominant, what happened to us earlier. If we don't have the professionalism and practice to recognize this is not about ourselves, when we get, that can get in the way. Right?
And then the other thing for me too is that my spirit guides, teachers, however you want to call them, will decide during a reading that, okay, now we want to take you to another level of your development. in the middle of her
Yes.
reading.
I love that. I love it
And I'm
when
like,
it's like,
really? Now?
now.
So,
You're in a
okay,
perfect trust at that point, though, right? I mean,
right.
perfect time to.
No, but even in that
Go.
moment, I'm going, really? Now? Okay, let's go. And then afterwards, I sit, and I sit quietly with, I have to go quiet after I'm done. It's just something about me where I just give me about 5-10 minutes to just kind of recenter. And during that time, I will talk to my spirit guides or teachers, especially when they do one of those things, and go, really? That's when you want me to learn how to do that? In the middle of the reading?
But like I said, you're in that perfect trust place, right? So it
Mhm.
makes perfect sense that they would do that. Yeah. Because your
No, I still fuss at him about it.
mediumship is a live act.
It is. It is. We are live.
Yeah.
And, but yeah, so like, so that still happens. But then as soon as I close, I don't say close because here's the thing, we're never closed. We shift our focus.
Yeah.
That's how I look at it. We really just shift. You're not really closing. But as soon as my focus shifts away from being connected to the spirit world and all of the spirit loved ones that are over there to, okay, I'm back here on Mother Earth and I gotta feed the dog, or I gotta take out the trash, or I gotta pay the bills or run laundry. When I shift, when I'm done, is when I have that conversation with spirit before I completely close. Or not, like I said, not close, but completely shift out of it.
Conceptually close. Mhm. I know there are a lot of people out there that haven't experienced mediums or may have experienced it here and there, but not necessarily understood the process. And yeah, they do often expect us to be open. We see the television programs that show mediums just stepping into life circumstances and giving messages. So a lot of people assume that's what we're going to do. Do you want to talk a little bit about why that would be, what the pros and cons are of someone who would be doing that?
Um,
Staying too open is basically the,
Staying too open.
yeah.
Staying too open can be fun at first, right? Because you're learning about this process. You're getting used to the energies and the shift in the energies, and you're triangulating against with spirit and that whole thing. So it's part of the learning process, especially in the beginning. As you work more, practice more, like I say, practice, 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 you find that after you give about 20, 30 messages, you really don't want to hold all that. And you want to go out to dinner with your wife or your partner or whoever or your friends. And you want to have a good time with them in the moment. You want to be in the moment with them. You don't want to be over here in the spirit world, always over here. Oh, well, hold on. I hear her grandmother's here. Hold on. And there's a balance, like everything in life. You got to have that balance. And so for me, what I found was, while at first it was loud, when I learned how to shift my focus and set boundaries with myself and with spirit. Because that's the other thing, a lot of people are like, oh, but spirit said, look, the people that were here on the earth plane, their personalities have not changed. They're still those same people over there. So if you didn't take financial advice from your grandmother when she was here, why do you think she's now suddenly a financial guru because she's in the spirit world? She's going to give you the same financial advice she gave you when she was here. If you didn't listen then, you probably not don't listen now, kind of thing. And the other thing is that not everyone you meet, and I also say to people, spirit is excited when they see a light open. Oh my God, that's a medium. And imagine that you have a loved one that medium is standing in front of that you've been trying to communicate with, and that person has been ignoring all the signs and ignoring their dreams and ignoring all the little symbols that happening around them, their loved ones She's like, I'm here. And they won't hear her, and they don't hear him. And the medium and the spirit loved one sees you, the medium, standing in front of their loved one and going, you can hear me, so you tell her that I'm here, you know? And I on paper that looks great, right? I walk into this actually happened to me. Walk into a store, walk up to the checkout woman. Her grandmother's like, oh my God, tell her I'm here, I'm fine. I say hi, she can stop being sad. Been trying to tell her, but she's not listening, that kind of thing. And I could easily go to the person and go, I know this is crazy, but I have your grandmother and she's saying hi and da da da. Well, some people aren't ready for that. It could totally freak them out. It could do more harm than good. And it's also inappropriate. I don't fault spirit for trying.
Right.
They're excited, they want to connect with their loved one. As the medium, my job is to go, I understand, but perhaps you set up a time and a place for your loved one to, on their own free will, seek out a medium to connect with you. Because right now I'm shopping and I don't want to do this. I'm trying to figure out if I should get the pink lipstick or the purple lipstick and which one looks better on me. I don't, I have no desire right now to bring a message of love to your loved one who isn't open to receive or even see me coming.
Right. And you don't know the recipient at all. And the
Right.
recipient, I mean, to have a stranger walk up to you and address you in a public circumstance could really throw some people off and make them
And
very.
it could cause some pain, it could cause some harm. Now I know that they show that on TV, but one of the things I like to remind people when they do those TV shows with the surprise, as a person who's born and raised in LA and in the media industry and been around the media industry for a number of years, if you don't sign a release form, you don't make it on TV. And if somebody's standing there with 14,000 cameras, you kind of know something's going.
Something's happening. Right. And there's
So
stuff that
more likely than not, it's not as much of a surprise as it's staged to be. So, and that's the other thing. I don't have a ton of cameras behind me. I'm not walking in with lights. Somebody's not running up to the person going, she's a medium. She's going to ask you to give you a message, sign this release form if you want to be on TV and her to give you the message. That's not going to happen. That's what I imagine is, I mean, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that that's really what's happening behind the scenes. You got to sign a release form before you can be shown on TV anyway. And there's a person showing up with like cameras all around them. So,
yeah, so something's going down when it's happening.
something's good.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
not as much of a
Some
cold
preparation
shock.
ahead of time. There's some preparation ahead of time. Yeah.
Right.
So that kind of borders on the topic of ethics in a way, but it's your personal ethics. I can't say
Yeah, I think so.
somebody's wrong for doing that, but I think we need to be responsible. I think we need to perceive the whole picture in that situation and not just make it about us, not just make it about spirit, making spirit super hyper special in order to make us special, in order to make somebody else feel special, right? I mean, I think there's a balancing act there, and it is better to run. I feel it's better to run by invitation. What other ethics and important standards do you uphold as a medium?
Oh wow. So permission, you have to ask permission. Be prepared for a no.
Right.
And be okay with a no. When you're doing public gallery work, especially, just because you have all the information coming in does not mean you should share all of it. I mean, really read the room. I have actually seen this done where, and the person and the medium was horrified, new to it, and didn't realize it, but he came through, he brings a message to a loved one, to a person in the audience, their boyfriend sitting next to them. And the message was from grandma about I see you married to da 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 da, that was not boyfriend sitting next to them.
Right. So we have to give what we get from spirit, and we are sensitives. So we can certainly execute sensitivity,
Hmm.
still deliver the message.
Right. I don't ever give death. Well, I have that agreement with spirit. I don't want to know who's dying. I don't want to know when they're dying. I don't, and I'm not going to tell nobody that somebody's dying. Now, the thing is, I don't know if it's unfortunate or fortunately, there are messages that I give that I know, oh, so and so is about to transfer. But again, it's my responsibility to bring the message to the loved one. Okay, I have your uncle here. They want you to say hi to their mom, and they're around your mom, and they just want you to know that they're there. They're making sure that everything's okay, and what have you. And usually, at least that's the latest transition with spirit, the new test that spirit has taught me, is that the person usually transitioned within a few months of me giving that message. And I'm like, ugh, you know I don't like it.
And even then, I have found that, and maybe you have too, that when that comes in, we can't actually know. We have a feeling
No.
it's moving in that direction, but we can't actually know, because at any moment, we've heard these stories of people that have
Yeah.
the other side and come back, you know. So I think that is an important ethic. I would concur with you on that. The one thing that comes up about both of these topics you just mentioned in your ethical poise, I totally understand as a medium. If I was a listener, I think I would have the question of, are you interpreting the message? So how do you, so why don't I just give you where my head's at on this? So one of the things that I was taught was that when you get something difficult like that, or something that lays out a whole bunch of information at once, you know, those claircognizant downloads you get,
Hmm.
like in those situations where you're like, yeah, it looks like this person is completing their life cycle here in the earth plane. You get a sense of that, but you don't have the actuality of that, nor did spirit communicate that directly, but you have
Right.
understanding. I was taught that when you get information, you just go back and say to the spirit, so how do you want me to say this? And when I've done that, I have found that just the right phraseology comes through that the person across me comprehends. So that's another level, I believe, where we trust spirit. So we're not interpreting what we're getting.
Hmm.
Kathleen's not making a
And I
decision
think,
about what's
and I hear that, and I do, that's for 101 in my opinion. But I think when you're in a gallery situation, you're in a room full of 50 or 60 people,
Mhm.
um, it could be embarrassing and painful for that person that
Yeah, I know we have.
this is the moment that you're coming up with, you're going to tell me that my mother's father's here to take my mother, and how am I going to say that? And even if the right phraseology comes about, I found that I actually go back and I say to the spirit loved one, like I had one recently, and I said, "What do you want me to say?
Right,
How do you want me to say it?"
right. So
And
you,
they'll say, "Just let him know this, and this." And so we stay on that, which actually brought the person I was bringing the message to a great comfort to know that that person was there being the protector of their dad without all of that other, without saying, well, he's actually here to help your dad transition. And so, yeah, like you said, I do go back and ask, what do you want me to say? How do you want me to say it? Because because I make it very clear to spirit, I'm not telling anybody anybody's dying. So
right.
come up with a new one.
Things that brings home is the fact that you remember who you're talking to. You're not giving a message to the person that is in that vulnerable position. You're giving it to the person that is asking for that reading, who is receiving that. and you're letting them know that they will be supported, right? You're letting them know
Oh,
through
yeah.
this message. So it's like you're asking spirit to give you the information that is going to uphold and uplift and support this person for whatever may be coming, whatever that is.
Yes.
And that's when I find that we get the right words. They just, like when you say you
Mhm.
trance, sometimes it feels like we are, because we're in the presence of spirit, and then you get moved to speak. And when you get moved to speak, you have this information that comes out
Mhm.
and addresses it as it needs to be addressed, for the purpose of upholding and uplifting that person that's receiving it, regardless of what's coming, because our lives are filled with all that, right?
Oh,
We're
yeah.
going to have all kinds of things that we're going to be challenged by: losses, gains, difficulties, challenges, right?
Mhm.
Joyous celebrations, and all of it adds levels of understanding and opportunities. I love that spirit comes through and gives us a chance, when we're listening well as mediums, right? That we're getting that opportunity to say it in a way that supports the person.
And
As
that's always what I'm looking for, because I always set that intent before I go in. I say, okay, when you hear your loved one's name, step forward, come close, bring me evidence, and bring me the message that they need to hear now, that will bring them to peace, bring them peace now from this interaction. Um,
you set you
and
to begin with.
yeah, I mean, I start. That's how I open, and then and when I close, thank you for allowing me to serve. And I never say that your loved one's gone or they've left or anything like that. I just know that my energy is coming to a close. It's not them. They haven't disappeared. Like, and I make sure to say, okay, if they're actually I don't know how well others do it, but for me, I spend a lot more time with spirit, making sure that I'm getting across what they wanted to get across, that I'm saying what they wanted to say. I'm getting out the things that they want to get out, and that it's coming out the way that I'm saying it, that honors them and respectfully gives the giving them their opportunity to talk to their loved one. And with the loved one, I am more looking at, like, let's say it's you, I'm more looking at you to say, does this make sense? Does this connect? Do you know who this is? And allowing spirit to go, okay, maybe I'm not being clear enough. Try this. And trying to create, and then once the identity is done, I move to messages. I don't stay in the evidence. Because the thing about evidence is, once you know that it's your grandmother, and that energy, you guys have connected now. Grandma standing around you, you now actually feel grandma around you. So let's talk about what grandma wants to say. Now that you know it's grandma, grandma now wants me to tell you what she's been trying to tell you for the past 3 days or 3 months or whatever. So let's get to that point with you, because that's really what you want to hear. You want to hear from your grandmother. You don't want to razzle, you don't need me to razzle dazzle you that I have your grandmother. Does that make kind of where I'm going with, because it's not that it's not that evidence isn't important. It's in my mind, it's important in terms of you knowing that it's your grandmother and that you're connected. And now I want your grandmother to talk to you. I want her to have this opportunity to use me as her vessel, her voice, to now talk to you the way she would have probably talked to you and comforted you if she was still here on the earth plane.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, you're saying you don't give a string of evidence and keep going even after we know who it is. You keep going with the evidence for the purposes of identification.
Right.
Yeah. One of the
Because
things.
once you're identified, I have found that and that's the healer part of me, because now I want you to get your healing. Now I want you to feel whole again. That's where we're going. That's now my next step. And I know for you, hearing from your grandmother and hearing how she's saying things and hearing the advice that she wants to give you, whether you accept it or not, is part of your healing process of that feeling of my grandmother's gone. And in this moment, you are with your grandmother and that's all you're thinking about and that's all you're feeling. And I'm with my grandma right now and she's saying all the things. And then that's where I don't want to get trapped in, okay, well, this is another evidence piece. And then like 25 minutes in, all I'm giving you is evidence and you haven't heard from your grandma.
Right. Have you noticed when you're really strongly connected to spirit, because you are sounding like you really trust spirit, you're appealing to spirit to bring the information, and that's where all your attention's placed for the most part. Have you noticed that when you are giving the message, more evidence comes through the message?
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, I find that really when I'm in that zone,
Mhm.
everything that comes out is it's evidence and message, and the message is the evidence. A lot of times, message is the evidence. I've told that to people because I do teach and help guide people in developing their own mediumship, and they'll get stuck on, I'm trying to get a name, I'm trying to get a street name, and I'm like, wait, sometimes the evidence is in the message.
And even the evidence can be very much about presence, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what we're trying to do, is bring them through as a presence, because
Yeah.
that's where the healing comes from, right? When they feel alive again with their family near them.
Yes, yes. And that's where that's where I get excited.
Yeah.
Like I like my like I get really giddy when I know that she feels her grandma. Yay!
Where do you think the spirit world is? That's a question I like to ask people.
I believe it's right here. Like I said, I remember at work, I was outside on a break, and I remember talking with Spirit, and Spirit goes, "Put up your hands," and I put up my hands, and then they said, "Okay, now, like shift your focus in one direction." They're like, "What do you see?" And I told them what I saw, and they're like, "Now shift your focus in another direction. What do you see?" And I told them what I saw, and they said, "And that's spirit world, and that's your world." It's literally a shift. It's a subtle shift from where you're focused at. I'm focused in the material world right now, but all it takes is a subtle shift, and I could be with the spirit world.
And so if we pull full circle back to what you said about being closed, that's really what's happening there too, right? Because
Yes,
shifting your focus from the spirit world and the etheric and intangible aspects of energy to something a little more dense and concrete,
yeah,
right? That
much heavier, much.
sensation that you've closed off, but really you've just looked the
I
other way.
just literally shifted, and it's so. And then that's the other thing is I remember one student was so excited because we're doing an exercise, and we've been doing it for a while, and the next class, so we're doing it, and then she goes, "Okay, I know spirit's here, but I don't feel anything." And I was like, "Congratulations." And she goes, "What?" And it's like, "Cause it is so subtle. And the more you get used to it, the more you practice it, the more you realize that there is no huge fanfare every time you shift into the spirit world. It's literally a slight shift. That's it."
Yeah, it's very natural when it starts happening.
Hmm.
Very well. I love the term the Brits use, the British people that do mediumship, and it's become more popular, is blending, because that's how it feels, right? The energy is just making its way in, more concentrated and bringing more of our attention to it. It's beautiful.
Hmm. Hmm. And I said, and it's also realizing that a tuning is but a 2-second process, and then you're there. There is no, yes, at the beginning, you want to feel that shift. You want to feel this thing, and you get, and spirit provides. But as you go further along, you realize that there isn't, I don't need to go sit in the corner for a half hour before I start doing work. I don't need to go into a deep-seated meditation before I can give a message. I don't need to do any of that. I just need to trust and shift. attune, set my intention, set up my attunement and open. Okay, I'm open. And I have phrases that, because I've been using them for so long, spirit goes, okay, she's open, she's ready. Okay, everybody start lining up. And then I have another phrase because I've been saying it for so long. Okay, she's done. She ain't bringing nobody else through. Thanks for coming. And that's literally now I'm to, if I say XYZD at the beginning, they know, okay, she's open. And when I say XYZD at the end, they go, okay, she's done. Thanks. And that's all it is anymore now.
So you talk about the shift. Now, at the end, when you say your phrase and you're done, you've shifted away from focusing on spirit. Now, let
Mhm.
me ask you this. Some people have often brought up, well, do you protect yourself? How do you clear yourself before you go on? That's two questions. How do you clear yourself before you go into the next reading? Say you're doing a few in a row. Do you want to talk to both of those ideas that some people have about what we do?
I don't know what I'm protecting myself from.
Okay.
I mean, either I trust spirit and my spirit guides and teachers to have my back, or I don't.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
to me, there's nothing to protect from. Plus, I personally believe that you have to vibrate. You got to be open. It's your intent, really. It's how you're setting your intent. If you set the intent that you want negative things to happen to you, negative things can happen. Self-fulfilling prophecy can happen. Um, I try to tell people that mediumship is not a Hollywood movie. I know that Hollywood has done a great job scaring the crap out of people.
Mhm.
However, I really want to know how many serial killers were spirit. How many mass murderers are in jail that are actually spirit? How many how many horrible things that have happened to human beings has been done by spirit, or how many of them has been done by other human beings? And regardless of what they claim of why they did it, or they heard voices or what have you, the negativity of life or the hard things of life of people hurting other people is people hurting other people, the human experience. I have never had that with spirit, nor now when we moved in here, we had a woman, there's a woman that is a part of this house, and she had her ideas of how her house should be done. And we chatted, and she's like, okay. And she, and that was it. There was no haunting, there was no beating me up, there was no weird, unexplained, negative accidents happening around me. And just like anybody else, and I guess I don't look at spirit as this not me or not a part of the whole uh, energy train. So I talked to her the way I would talk to my grandmother if she was here. My grandmother had the same protectiveness about her home. So if I'm in her home and my grandmother's there, I'm not going to be rude and nasty and whatever. I'm going to talk to her. I'm going to try and understand. I'm going to communicate. And I do the same thing. And if it's my grandmother in spirit telling me, I don't like that you put that over there, I prefer it over there, I'm going to have the same conversation with her, just in the same vein, not expecting her to beat me up or throw me out the window. I,
Like
and
in the
even
movies.
like
Right.
in the
So,
movies.
right.
This is not a movie thing. So there's no, for me, I don't think about protection. I assume I just trust and I attune to the best and highest. And now that's the other thing. Best and highest is always a part of everything. The messages that I bring through, I let Spirit know it has to be for their best and highest. This is not about getting revenge or whatever. Not that I've had anybody do that. So I've never had a negative experience. Maybe that's more about it. To feel like I need to be protected.
Well, there's the power of
Um,
the human mind to create the world around us, right?
yeah,
So if
yeah,
they had sensed that woman in spirit in your home, they may have had a negative reaction or a belief system that caused difficulty. And that can't be that's not much different than when you go to meet somebody for the first time. And if you go in all guarded and feeling like, having a preconceived notion about that person, it's going to be very difficult to communicate authentically with them.
Yes,
It's lovely
exactly.
that you were receptive to your spirit female, allowed her to exist as the energy she is, and then cooperating and being flexible and open and receptive to her, rather than bringing a baggage of beliefs to the dinner table.
And if she decided that she wanted to be rude and uncooperative, then I just say, well, thank you for coming and you need to leave. This is my home. Doesn't have to be some great, I don't need to sage. I don't need to call in a priest. I don't.
Right. And there's no fear, right? You're not expressing fear. You're being authentically yourself and stating, out of your own sovereignty, what's
Yeah.
it for you.
And what you should be doing on the human level with each and with all, I mean, that's the part of the self-development piece that I think is really important when doing mediumship, because I tell everybody when they start my classes, first thing I say to them, as you grow and open up spiritually and connecting with spirit world, all that stuff inside of you that you ain't been dealing with is going to grow and open up and say, hey, what about me?
And
The
as you
more,
open and grow, right, as you open and grow as a human, the spiritual side of you grows, but the human part of yourself needs to follow along for the ride.
yeah.
Too,
And
but
you're going to get to meet a
if
whole
it
lot of parts
doesn't,
of yourself.
yeah, you're going to be imbalanced. You wanna, and there's no hurry, is there?
No, God, no.
No. And there's
No,
no destination, really, is there? Would you agree with me on that?
there is no destination. I don't think so. At least for me, the more at the beginning, there was this kind of like, oh my God, am I gonna know it right? Da, da, da. How long is it gonna take me? I'm gonna be 100 years old before I get this or whatever. And the more I've done it, the more I've practiced, the more I've worked on myself, the more I work with spirit, the calmer and more relaxed I've gotten about the the dest. There is no destination anymore. It's just a journey. It's just part of walking. And I no longer have that fear of like, oh my God, if I don't hurry up, it's calmed down. It's like, I got time. I got eternity.
And there's definitely a reason I think the earlier spiritualists used to call mediumship an unfolding, right? Because
Hmm.
we are human and it just doesn't happen overnight. I mean, it may happen overnight that you get a message. It may happen overnight that you can get a spirit loved one to speak to you, but the depth and scope that's available for you, if you're rushing it, you're going to miss that. And that is some precious stuff in there.
Oh yeah. And then the other thing too is that your mediumship and where you're supposed to land in it may not be mental mediumship. It may be something else. It may not even be giving messages to other people. It could be becoming a Supreme Court justice, which we have one. Um, Becoming a Supreme Court justice and to contribute her energy, dedicate her life and her purpose to bringing justice to all and making sure it's a fair, balanced court. That is medium. That is part of, and her mediumship was listening to herself and spirit when they brought her messages or brought guidance to her along her journey. Everybody's journey and purpose and where you go is so unique to you. And not, and the other thing you have to ask yourself is, if you don't talk to strangers normally, is mental mediumship really something you want to do?
Interesting point.
Because talk about all the strangers you're going to be talking to.
They don't feel that way though. They feel close to you. They feel
Right. But I mean, if you're not that type of personality in your day-to-day life, because I've had people who go, I can't get anything or anyone. And I'm like, well, what is your personal day-to-day life like? Well, I don't really like being around people. I don't really like talking to people.
you have to have that appreciation for human quality,
Right.
all quality. Yeah.
And sometimes you just need it for yourself so that you can hear your loved ones with yourself and trust that you're hearing from them.
Mhm.
Um, And then the other part of your question, uh, clearing, the clearing.
Yes.
Well, see, for me, I don't know what that's about either, but
Well, people have mentioned it, so this is why I'm bringing it up for you
yeah. So
guys.
for me, they're lined up together on a bench, waiting for me to say their loved one name so they can step forward and blend energies with me, and we go to mediumship. And when I'm done with their loved one, because I always end, and I leave them with you, which is the cue of next.
Yeah,
There's no, I don't know why I don't know what I'm clearing in between.
right.
Because I
So
don't clear in between my friends when we're at a party. If I've been talking to Sarah for 20 minutes and I turn to talk to Bobby, I don't take a pause and say, wait, let me clear. I've been talking to Sarah for 20 minutes
right.
so that I can pay attention to Bobby. I guess for me, I see spirit world the same as being here on earth. How I communicate with them is how I communicate with people here. How I treat them is how I treat people here. How all of it works is the same way how it works here. I believe that we're having a physical experience, but we're all spiritual beings. So I'm just, one shift is the physical beings, and the other one is they're not in their physical manifestation, but it's all the same spirits, not same people, but it's the same concepts of communication, of how do you get along with people, how do you interact with other people.
Have
Do
you
you
noticed doing the mediumship has advanced your own spiritual journey?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And
It's
how
it.
has that done that for you?
Um, I'm I'm a lot more patient with people than I used to be some days. Um, I have a better understanding and clearer understanding of myself and what matters to me. I also feel like that I accept, not that I didn't before. Hmm, I don't know. I know it has. It's just in such, it's just intertwined. Like one isn't separate from the other. For me, it's an intertwined being of greater understanding of my own spirit, me being spirit,
Right.
me having my own spirit connection, me connecting with the spirit within. What does our heart want? What do I feel? What do I desire? What's in my best and highest, and going into myself, knowing that I'm spirit and that I, as a spiritual being, can access that for myself as well, and trusting that that's what's happening. And not giving credit to all of these not othering everything in my life experience or other people or whatever. Just realizing that just like I can bring healing love and comfort to others by bringing forth their loved ones, I can also bring healing love and comfort to myself because I am connected to spirit, and spirit will bring that. If I ask for it, I shall receive.
That's beautiful. Yeah, nice. I
So,
have one more thing I wanted to ask you because
okay.
the time is flying by. I wanted you to speak on something that you would like to speak on that is relevant to you and your work in mediumship, something you're passionate about communicating to others, and especially those that are listening. You know, they could be people that are mediums already, they could be people that are just spiritualists, they could be people that are well on their way and
Mhm.
experience that mediumship. What would you like to share?
Um, wow, that's a big one. But I think that it goes back to the class I taught a year ago. And that has one of been my biggest drivers since um, doing mediumship, and that is stop othering. Look at your own biases.
Hmm.
Unpack those before you bring messages. Because harm is done when you won't work on yourself. You can be great at bringing me evidence. You can tell me all the evidence in the world, but if I'm not connecting and if you're not connecting, I'm not connecting. And if your biases get in the way, you may not be bringing me the healing message that I might be needing as a sitter in this moment that I'm hoping that you're going to bring me when you bring forth a loved one of mine. And so one is I would like to see all of us, because I have to do it myself too, working on our biases, whether they're conscious or unconscious. Know what's yours so that when you get into that space, you don't let your stuff take over. I have grandkids and their skin color is not mine. And I think of my grandson who looks like you, pale as a ghost, no hair, and light colored eyes. And I think of him one day going to a medium because he wants to hear from his grandma. And that medium saying, well, I have this woman, and because I don't look like, we don't have the same skin color, she says, she feels motherly like, but I don't think it's your grandmother. Even though I'm sitting down and they're going, I'm his grandmother. But she's decided I can't be his grandmother because I don't look like it. And him sitting there, because I know my grandson, going, you suck. Because that is my grandmother. But there are those, and I've heard the stories. I've heard stories of people who, because of the medium's unpacked biases, because of the medium's on not dealing with their own biases and their own prejudices and their own preconceived what should be and what shouldn't be. I've heard of people cry and say, I will have nothing to do with mediumship again. I will never go to another medium. They're all quacks and da 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 da. And it's because they're hurt. And they've come to you in a vulnerable state. And because you haven't done the work on yourself, you've created more pain for them, not intentionally, but you've created more pain for them where they're now completely shut down. And our goal, in my personal opinion, as a spiritualist, is I want everybody to work to be as free and happy and living their authentic life so that all I have to do, so I can go back to just sitting around doing nothing. It's always been, like I always tell people, like, I'm in the business of taking myself out of business. You know, I've been an activist most of my life. I still am. I advocate for justice and social causes, but I also want every human being to find their joy. And in a very selfish way, because if everybody is living and being in their joy, ain't nothing to fix, ain't nothing to worry about, ain't nothing to heal. Everybody's healed, everybody's happy, everybody's joyous, and I could just sew or watch TV or take a lot of long naps.
Beautiful.
So
It's a beautiful intention and goal. I love it. Yeah. I did take that class with you when you were teaching it, and I got a lot out of it. I got a lot out of it because, like you said, we have biases. And even if we don't have a bias, we may be awkward in understanding how to address a subject that we know has biases or sensitivity around. We know exactly whether we should come out and say something just as it is. And I love the example of the skin color, right? That can be tricky. Should I even say the word in the color or tone that I'm perceiving? You know, like you said, pale as a ghost. Well, yeah, I am as pale as a ghost. I always have. So I can't really change. And then I got white hair on top of it. So I can't really change that. And to say that out loud makes sense because that's what I've got. That's part of the evidence that I'm bringing through is the fact that I'm,
and for some people, that evidence is everything.
Yeah.
Some people, that's what they're waiting to hear because there was a unique skin condition with that family member. that maybe they're the only ones that knew about it.
Right.
Or like in one of the people's readings cases, her mother tanned beautifully. She sunburned. It was the best evidence I could.
Yeah.
And her mother's teasing her. You sunburned, I didn't, and she's like, oh my God, that is so my mom,
Yeah.
because that's exactly what my mother did.
Right.
Because and then the other part, it's not just skin color, it's all of the biases, right? We have to get to a point, especially with what spiritualism is that we know that life continues after the change called death, and that we are personally responsible for ourselves, our actions, and our behaviors. And that our goal should be to be as loving and as kind, not nice, be as loving, be as kind, be as open and generous of spirit and heart as we can with ourselves
Right.
and each other. And live authentically ourselves. To thyself be true. Because we are spirit. Putting people who are in the spirit world on the pedestal because they're in the spirit world, you one day will be that person. So why don't you put yourself on the pedestal now? Why wait? Make yourself wonderful now. Be wonderful now. You don't have to wait. And the more we do that, the more harmony we create within ourselves that we share. I found that the more I have unpacked, worked on, and healed within myself and worked on that healing process with myself, the less judgy and the less irritable and the less cranky I get with other people. And the more understanding and the more empathetic it's the craziest thing. The more I focus on myself, well, how are you doing, Charvonne? How are you checking in with myself, being good to myself, being honest with myself? The easier it has been to interact and be around and see the wonderful differences that we all that makes up the world, and being able to see it without this judgment, without this negative, like I hate her because she got blue hair, and oh my God, how dare she wear that dress? Doesn't she know how she, I don't have any of those not that I did before, but I mean, but I've noticed that it become even more less. And when I have my moments, I know I'm having these moments.
Right. You
I
recognize.
own my stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in a bad mood. I know this. I'm going to take a nap. I'm not sharing my bad mood with the world. I'm just, that sort of thing.
Because you don't like how something turns out.
Right.
The rest of the world. Yeah.
It's not everybody's fault that I don't like it. Right? I
Yes.
mean, and I'm not saying this to discount. There are hard things that happen to us. There are people that do harm. But if you look at it as actions, you look at it as those are their actions, your response is what dictates what happens next. It is not the action, it is your response to it. And the beauty of spiritualism, in my opinion, and being a medium, and have learned through mediumship, is however way you deal with it, it's fine. It all gets figured out. I've had spirit lovers that come through and said, I was a hard mom, and I'm sorry, but I'm working on it.
Yeah.
That's the beauty. We make mistakes, and that's the beauty of life, is the mistakes.
And that's what
And
growth can be, and the sharing.
mhm, and that's what I've learned through medium. That's the big spiritual picture for me with mediumship, is that there's never an end date of growing, of learning, of evolving. And that making mistakes is part of the journey. If we were supposed to be perfect, you were supposed to be perfect spiritual beings. Why are you here? No need to be here if I'm a perfect spiritual being.
Well, this has been a pleasure, and I'm glad you're here. Very glad. And it's been lovely speaking with you and spending this time with you, Charvonne. I
It's
look
been
forward
fun.
to
Thank
an
you.
opportunity to share with you in the future. Maybe next year in Lilydale in the summertime during season. It'd be lovely to see you. Look me up. And I appreciate you coming in today and sharing your passion and your experiences with us.
And thank you for inviting me. This has been really fun. I appreciate it.
So thank you so much. Tell people how they can get a hold of you.
Church of Peace, the spiritualistcenter.org is our website for the church. And so I answer all the emails. I respond to most of the contacts. So if you go to the website, that's the way of getting a hold of me. And yeah, that's the most direct, and that's the most direct way to get a hold of me if you need to get a hold of me. Just go there or email churchofpeacespiritual@gmail.com.
Oh, at Gmail, email you. Okay.
And then yeah, I'm everywhere. And if you, oddly enough, and not really odd, but it's odd to me, if you Google my name, you will find tons of crap on me.
And it's not you.
No, it's me.
Oh, it is you.
It is me.
Been a busy lady over the years then, huh?
I've done apparently I've done quite a few things in the decades of me being on this planet. So
They can learn more about you that way too
they
then.
can learn more about me that way. But yeah, easiest is through the church and through our email.
Right.
So
Thank you again for coming. Listeners and viewers, we want to thank you for tuning in to Charvonne's experiences here, and tune in a couple of weeks and we'll bring in someone new to speak with. And I want to thank you for listening to us today on the Medium's Porch. We are part of Lilydale Radio on Blog Talk Radio, and you can find out more about Lilydale at lilydaleassembly.org. They have classes through the winter virtually, and then in the summer we'll be amping up fairly soon in the new year, getting ready for that. So we have the season in the summer that starts in June and ends on Labor Day, where you can take classes, just come and have an experience of the space and get some healings while you're there. Thank you again for joining us. Everyone, be well.